Jeff Jenkins joining me here at Rock Reader Underneath the Riffs. Jeff, fantastic launch. Everyone was here. I think I counted 23 of the contributing authors at one point.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We've got 32 authors, so most of them were here tonight, and which is fantastic because the book really is about them. It's their book.
Yourself and Miranda compiled this, or I mean, how did that work out? Because you said before that it was more Miranda than yourself.
Yeah, it's really been Miranda's dream project. She's been working on this for about 3 years. She got me to write a story. I wrote about one of my favourite bands, Kings of the Sun, so I was wrapped just to be in the book. And then I kind of became a bit more involved when the book became kind of serious and we got a publisher, and I kind of just helped with the editing, which there's not much editing with this book. It's very rough and ready. I've been saying to people, it's no literary masterpiece. It is a rock and roll book. So with the editing, we weren't really cleaning anything up. It was like, you know, if there's no punctuation in the initial story, I didn't really put in much punctuation in the real story. So editing job, incredibly easy. It's just great to, you know, to be in the book, and a real tribute to Miranda because it's been her dream project for about 3 years.
Tom Elliott joining me here at Rock Reader Behind the Riffs book launch. There's a lot of people back there that you may not have seen for a while, or do you see them all the time?
Look, I see some of the people here, but as we know, there's free alcohol involved. Freeloaders will turn up out of absolutely nowhere. I suspect that's what's happened this evening.
Do you think that's why most of the 32 authors in this book have showed up this evening?
Well, it's the reason I showed up. That's actually not true. I showed up to the first time in my life I've ever given an autograph signing this wonderful book this evening. 5 copies of it. Unbelievable.
Really? Your experience at the Brixton Academy, the famous Brixton Academy, how did that come to be? Like, what was going on at the time?
Well, I was living as a student in the UK. I didn't have very much money, and they put on a show called The Roller Coaster, which was 4 bands, one after the other. Yeah. The first band was, I've forgotten who they were now. They were a support band. Then we had Dinosaur Jr. Yeah. Then we had Jesus and Mary Chain, who for many people is one of the ultimate sort of guitar-heavy shoegaze bands from the early 90s, the late 80s. But then we had My Bloody Valentine, who even back in 92 had quite a legendary reputation. And I'd heard that they were extraordinarily loud. I mean, Miranda Young asked me to contribute a story. She said, what's the most significant, the most memorable night or the most memorable gig you've seen? And for me, it was the fact that my ears were still ringing about 3 or 4 days later after that gig. And it still counts as the loudest thing I've ever seen.
Mark Jenkins joining me here at Rock Reader Underneath the Riffs launch party. And mate, you have one of the most interesting stories in the book. I think it's almost like a dream for a punter.
Well, it unfolded beautifully because you couldn't have predicted anything that happened.
No.
So it was the punter's dream, because people that, you know, I'm a massive Neil Young fan, but you never get to meet Neil Young.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that night was it was a roller coaster of emotion, I guess, is how you would. But being in the front row next to June Carter Cash, and then seeing the magnificent spittle-covered harmonica coming in our direction was something that you could never have dreamed that.
Now, was there any point in the story, when you were actually there and it was happening, where you went, geez, I feel like a dickhead, even for a split second? Because there was a lot of people there and you guys were, what's written in black and white, were just going crazy.
Well, the time we truly felt like a dickhead was when we arrived and it turned out that they were already 3 songs into the set. Yeah. And we had front row centre seats next to Johnny's wife.
Sure.
And we walked in already with quite a few beers and bourbons under our belt, very excited and a little bit nervous and the whole of the tennis centre, which was full, was seated, and these 2 idiots in their cowboy hats turn up 3 songs into the set and sit down in the best seats in the house.
Ed Nimmervold joining me here as the party continues for the launch of Rock Reader Underneath the Riffs. Now, you are a very, very well-respected rock journalist in this country, and I think one of the most interesting stories in the book as well.
Well, it's kind of a bit academic. Yeah. I kind of not regret it, but when I look at the other people, other stories, everyone's talked about their personal experiences, fun, and I'm being a bit serious.
Sure.
The whole thing, I'm really proud of Melbourne. Melbourne is the capital of music in Australia, and what I was trying to point out is why it happened. That Melbourne had this difference to Sydney. When I describe the 2 cities, Sydney's like a dancer with makeup on. Melbourne is the real person.
Sure.
And that's the difference between the two cities. So musically it's the same. Over the years, music has been very superficial from Sydney, whereas Melbourne has been very serious, and you've got this lineage, this history from one person to another. Like at one stage back in the 60s, Melbourne had more venues than London. And people don't think that that's amazing and don't realise it, but Melbourne is where music really has grown up, and it still does that under duress in a lot of ways.
No, well, in fact, funnily enough, I saw this band, My Bloody Valentine, again in London 3 months ago. So there's been a 16-year gap. They were handing out earplugs to people and saying that epileptics should not go in and watch them. And the great thing is, 16 years later, they haven't changed. The volume still goes up to 11, and it's still almost unbearable, but just bearable. Every generation makes its own rock history, and you get some of us are getting on a bit. Like I'll be 41 this year.
Don't look a day over 35.
Yeah, virtually dead. But no, the thing is that you can have great live gig moments. And one of the things I like about what's happening in live music at the moment is that more of it is live. People are downloading stuff for nothing. They're not buying CDs, but they still want to go and see bands. And so I actually think for bands out there at the moment, now's the time to be performing. That's how you'll make history, and you want to be part of the audience.
What do you think right now about the bands and the music scene in Australia? Is it strong? Is it weak? Where are we at?
Look, I think it's getting strong again. I might reserve my opinion completely until I see some of the festivals this summer.
Sure.
But I occasionally do a show here at 3RRR focusing on some of the newer shoegazing bands, and I've been really, really impressed with some of the young Australian bands. And these are guys in their early to mid-20s, girls as well, producing some really sort of kick-ass music. I mean, it's great. So I found that my enthusiasm for live music has been completely rekindled in the past couple of years.
Having read the whole book, I think one of the interesting things is the different voices that come through and the authentic tone of the book. I guess I'm not as big a name as most of the people in the book, and sadly have had to actually tell a story with grammar and syntax and that has a beginning, middle and end. But just it conveys a great sense of the feel, and so much of rock is just about people's passion. And I think you really get a sense of the passion and the individuality of everybody's passion. What it means a different thing to every single writer in this book.
Rock and roll is unpredictable, it's wild, it's untamed. That's what this book is about, It really captures the magic of music, that you can just turn up to a gig, anything can happen. You're entering the great unknown, and that's what this book really celebrates. So it's just documenting, the great rock and roll history, particularly of Melbourne. So, as you said, sometimes you don't remember all those great rock and roll stories, but when you do, it's great to document it, and, fingers crossed, so many, normal punters will just, be able to contribute to Volume 2. Because that's what the book's all about. It's about having famous people like Molly, like Michael Gudinski, like Tim Rogers, but it's just also having the normal gig-going people who love rock and roll.
Now, I've asked quite a few of the contributors this. How do you think this book will affect the younger generation that don't really know much about the history of Melbourne rock and roll, and Australian rock and roll for that matter?
Yeah, I really hope people, read it. There's a couple of great stories, one by Ed Nemevol and one by Francis Leach, that really document why Melbourne is the rock and roll capital of Australia. And I really hope people, read those. It really gives it a great context, the rest of the book. Especially
Ed's story with the, the tale of two cities between Melbourne and Sydney. It's such a great read, especially to find out, Sydney's rise and then fall in that music scene.
Yeah, definitely. So there is a real historical and kind of educational element to the book, but ultimately it's a celebration of rock and roll.
Oh, here they are, both of them.
Yeah, and so I take it back what I was saying about Miranda. She actually did contribute to the book. It wasn't all me.
Yeah.
No, this is the one
But
who
our
put it
greatest
together.
talent besides editing is going to TV, taping events and getting the
eating
best
food.
out of the catering. Yeah.
Yes, that is
Stealing
true.
stuff out of the green room.